So I saw this image a while ago, and initially I laughed, of course, because it's funny. And then I saw a debate with somebody who chose to go through the rather tedious and laborious task of trying to squeeze a very large square into a circle, which is more or less the act of insanity, which is to try and reason logically with the Deontay Wilder fan. And when I combined that particular event with this image here, I was filled with a certain sense of sorrow, because regardless of what I feel boxing is supposed to be about, and I guess some people do use it almost as a stick to bash certain people with. When you see an image like this, you know that this is probably going to be the enduring legacy of the Deontay Wilder fan for years to come. This image here, as you see Wilder fans in 2021 written there. And for years to come, this is going to be the enduring legacy of everything that the Deontay Wilder fan, even real fans, who decide to throw their lot in or cast their lot in with Deontay Wilder and his nonsense. And we'll speak about that later. This is going to be the enduring legacy, the picture, the image that defines what they represent to the sport of boxing, alongside all the other ridiculous, desperate utterances that they make in favor of Deontay Wilder.
I don't think that Deontay Wilder should have to wait. If Anthony Joshua beats Tyson Fury,
then let's see Joshua and
Wilder.
Well, here's the thing.
And Wilder, though. I think that Wilder should get the winner.
Don't look too much at the contracts, because, look, Deontay Wilder has to be getting paid to step aside. And when you get step aside money, when you're next with a contract, it ain't $100,000. It's $5-10 million.
So that was Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith talking about the possibility of somehow, some way, Deontay Wilder stepping aside and getting the opportunity to either fight again immediately after Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua fight, because by right somehow he's entitled to money or the next fight. And I've got to be honest here, I just think they're full of shit. I think that they're saying this stuff to placate a particular group of people out there, and none of it makes any fucking sense, and it's not going to work anyway, because I've already seen some people who are entitled to their opinion suggest that Max Kellerman especially is lying, because he has a temerity and audacity to suggest that their great champion, this Herculean hero of theirs in Deontay Wilder, would consider, not to talk of actually acting on taking a step-aside fee, an enormous step-aside fee, which he's not in the least bit entitled to, after such a shellacking, after such a humiliating beating, after being stripped of his manhood. Okay, and actually exacerbating the problem by lying about the reasons and causes for it. That he's entitled somehow between 5 to 10 million. And you know, they just throw these numbers about. There's a big difference between 5 and 10 million. But I suppose if it's not coming out of your pocket, you could just mention it, you know, casually in the age of COVID. We just, listen. A man who somehow is not entitled to what they call force majeure, to enforce his rights, the security. Now, that force majeure is an insurance policy. He's not even entitled to that. He has to go to some sort of... And you know that whole... The thing that I understand about the arbitration and mediation thing is that I think it was actually put in place for something different entirely. Should the contract be in effect and then somehow, some way, somebody has a problem, a later problem, a latter day problem that was unforeseen while the contract is active. But I think what they've tried to do, Shelley Finkel being Shelley Finkel, is try to expand the meaning of that arbitration clause to suggest that because there are mitigating circumstances, extenuating circumstances because of COVID, that they have a right to be heard. And, you know, there's just a moral and ethical aspect to Tyson Fury giving Deontay Wilder another fight, because after all, Tyson Fury gave him the fight, and that's more or less what they. But you know, it's just an appeal to emotion, really. But to suggest based on that he deserves, or he somehow is entitled to a large payout, I don't think they should give it to him. I don't think he deserves it at all. I think they should give him something, but in the tune of 1.2 at the most, even if they're making 200 million each. If you give him that amount of money, what in fact, I suppose the Deontay Wilder fan might be slightly right. One second. So suppose they probably do have a point when they when they rail against the idea of this great guy of theirs taking the money, taking the coin, which, in all honesty, I don't think he really wants to get beaten up again like that. But, you know, they've convinced themselves that after such a long layoff, you know what I mean? But, hey, let's see. What have we got next? I've got a few things lined up, so let's see what we got next. All right, so I got this here. This is Pfeiffer. I can't remember the last fight this guy was in, but I do remember the name. Yes, that was Daniel Dubois, wasn't it? Yeah, that was Daniel Dubois. This guy Pfeiffer fought against Daniel Dubois before he went into a fight against. It was either George. This guy fought George Joyce or Daniel Dubois, but it was one of those tune-up fights that either one of those two fighters had prior to them facing each other, and Daniel Dubois getting beaten. So Pfeiffer versus Webb, I don't know who Webb is, but seems to be that Pfeiffer is the main attraction. 27th of March there. Who's next? All right, so this is something that I saw and I was intrigued by. I don't like the fact it's been cut off at the edges. I probably should expand it a little bit more. 1 second, yo. Let's cut this here. Let's expand it. Let's expand this. And we're back. So this is something that I spoke about because apparently, this is the Lonsdale belt, I believe. Staffy Bull, who is the trainer of Terry Harper, and I'll speak about her later in this video. So just days away before Doncaster's own Maxie Hughes challenges for this beautiful Lonsdale belt. You can watch it live on Friday night on IFL TV, really, promoted by MTG Global. I'd appreciate, but listen, the reason why I'm pointing this out is like Lonsdale belt. It came into focus because I did a little section, a little clip, a little segment on Lennox Lewis. Forgive me. And Lennox Lewis apparently is the only British heavyweight who held all the belts and also held the Lonsdale belt. There was something that made him unique to somebody like Habby Hyde and all the other guys that came from, you know, I can't remember the story exactly, but what set him aside, particularly in Britain, is the fact that he also held the Lonsdale belt as opposed to Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua. So, you know, and it is, you know, it's quite ancient looking with a lion on top, and it is quite beautiful when you think about it. You know what I mean? Old fashioned, old school type of thing. What we got next? So, Akhmadaliev versus Iwasa, Japanese. All right, on the 3rd of April. Yeah, Edward Trojanowski likes that. Match from 3rd of April. I don't know any of these guys, though. Where's this supposed to be taking place? I can't see. Where's that? Does that say something arena? Maybe I could enlarge that a bit, because I'm not gonna fuck with that. Something arena, but I'm guessing it's in Uzbekistan. Yeah, it's in Uzbekistan. You can see all the fighters. Actually, there's, you know, Yalolov, or Giyasov. Is that Giyasov? Yalolov, Madrimov. We know him. Colombo. All right, and then you got Akhmadaliev and Iwasa. All right, this topic I want to talk about. Let me. I'm gonna skip through in a second. Estrada Gonzalez too. Now, there's been a lot of talk about that, and this is something that I really want to talk about. So,
who don't know boxing will look at those two on the scales and go, "What, these guys? Well, I could take those guys out with one punch." And then you watch him get in the ring, and you just go, "Wow!" And actually, for me, the lighter weight classes are so exciting because they're non-stop action, and you never get a bad fight. Never. I mean, can you imagine this fight on Saturday being anything but a 12-round brutal war? Like, it's. I know someone can get stopped, but like, it's going to be all action, isn't it? From the first bell, and the engines are unbelievable. And again, I go back to this fight, and it's not just for hardcore fans, but this fight's for boxing fans on Saturday. Mm-hmm. This card is for boxing fans. And I just think they're going to get something really, really special.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's what we're going to talk about here. We're going to start here. We're going to start with Chocolatito Gonzalez saying "Vamos por la trilogía." Okay, he wants the trilogy. He writes la vencida. I think they call the VB, right, in Spanish. I would say la vencida, but la vencida humildemente. Humility, Cristo te ame. I don't know. I don't speak Spanish. I know certain words, and that's it. I should do a little bit more, But basically, he says "vamos" when you hear "vamos por la trilogy." Let's go trilogy. Okay, so he wants the trilogy, and what's interesting about that is let me just go to what Estrada says. Here we go. Oh, 1 second, Let's go to what Estrada says. Estrada says, "Swip over. Where are we? Yeah, there we are." So Estrada says, "I'd prefer third fight with Gonzalez next over Ronvisai rubber match." So I think he's responded to some of the criticism that he's got. A lot of people out there believe that Chocolatito won. Personally, I think it's a bit overboard, but before we get there, let's also look at the third party involved in this and how he feels about it. And I think his point of view is also very important because this happens a lot in boxing. And I feel that there are some forces, albeit nefarious or well-intended, that are pushing this thing with Chocolatito. And I think that there's a possibility it's going to overshadow and be unfair to other parties involved. And I'm not just speaking about Estrada here. Obviously, I'm a bit biased towards Estrada because I prefer Estrada. I think he's a great boxer. I think that when it comes to Chocolatito, there's other forces, there's other perceptions, there's other point of views that come to play that help him and aid him. And even if he did win that fight, I think that it's on steroids. And we'll get to that in a second. But first of all, let's look at what this gentleman has to say. Let's go find him. And I mean, of course, Sesikatsu Ronvisai, and he is not too enamored with the idea of these people having a third fight and leaving him out in the cold. And he says, I'm going to paraphrase here, I had 3 mandatory fights against Estrada and Roman Gonzalez, okay, in 2 years when I was a champion. Estrada has been champion for 2 years and he's had zero mandatory. He's fought no mandatories. I have been waiting for a long time, which means that he's mandatory. I did everything I had to do to become a mandatory. They've got their unification they wanted. All right, Estrada came out on top. Now it's my turn. He believes it's his turn. He's not going to be forced to wait simply because there's a whole raft of latter-day Chocolatito fanboys out there who believe for some reason that it is cool to keep on yelling and screaming and howling and gnashing their teeth simply because they want this romantic comeback story of Chocolatito making a comeback and becoming champion again, which of course will reinforce for some people, and this is why I say there are some forces, malevolent forces, nefarious forces, who want this story to move in a particular direction because it will somehow reinforce or validate the decision they made a while ago that they argued, which was that somehow when we didn't know that much about Chocolatito Gonzalez, he deserved to be number one pound for pound, and they kept on pushing him in that Manny Pacquiao direction to keep on moving up and up and up and fight in the same manner, and then he got knocked out by Rongvisai. But they wanted to make this comeback so he can come back, all right? And that fight against Estrada was very close. That's the problem I have. It was close. You could say, listen, overwhelmingly, people believe that Chocolatito won.
Chocolatito won, period. I guess we're set up for a trilogy. Yeah, that's boxing.
But, you see, I don't go with the majority because I also feel I compared him to Manny Pacquiao. The same shit used to happen with Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao, undoubtedly a great fighter. But when there were crowds there, Manny Pacquiao could throw 10 punches, land about 2.5. And what I mean is 2.5 is that a lot of those punches might not necessarily be as effective as they want to be. The crowd will say that Manny Pacquiao is killing him. Oh, another round for Pacquiao. Oh, but he hit here. He hit a lot of here. Somebody pointed out that the problem, that even if you want to go against the judge, fair enough, the one who scored it wide for Estrada, that and 1 second, let me move it forward. Let me go back to Chocolatito while I talk about this. Like right here, okay? That, listen, somebody noticed, and I'm not, this is not my criticism, that a lot of the punches that Chocolatito was throwing were not having that much effect on Estrada. Whereas Estrada, on the other hand, the judge might have, in his opinion, in his mind, believed that Estrada was doing more damage. And it's kind of interesting that once you have a person who throws a lot and he's already a favorite, it's almost impossible to win against a person like that. It's almost impossible to win against a person like that, even if Estrada is throwing just as much, or even if he's more calculated and more precise in his throwing. Okay? But all Chocolatito is just even hit with the wrong side of the fucking knuckle, one side of the one part of the glove, and it's a score, and he's winning the fight, and he's beating the living shit out of. And Estrada said it was a draw. He wasn't arrogant about it, but I think that's a mistake already. Sometimes you cannot do that when you have this mass of fanboys, of New Day fanboys who have sort of somehow been convinced that no matter what, if it's a fight like that, you have to go for Chocolatito Gonzalez. And I'm not saying he didn't win, but I think the support for Chocolatito Gonzalez in this matter is way overboard. And I just feel that there's a bit of insincerity involved in that too. That's just my point of view. However, moving on, I wanted to move on to, let's talk about Anthony Joshua and Floyd Mayweather. So this is what a lot of people have been talking about. I look forward to working with Joshua real soon. And that could mean a variety of things. But of course, it still comes down to the realistic notion that Floyd Mayweather could be contributing in some way, in some shape or form, to the development of Anthony Joshua. It's kind of strange that he'll still be talking about development of Anthony Joshua, but nevertheless, he's still developing. It is what it is. He's never said himself that he is the complete and finished article, unlike his rivals, unlike Deontay Wilder and unlike Tyson Fury. They happen to believe that they're already there and they're already God's gift to boxing and so on and so forth. In the case of Deontay Wilder, in fact, in case of both of them, I think they're both fakes. So, I'm not saying that on behalf of Anthony Joshua. I'm not a big fan of Anthony Joshua either, but I can at least see that he's rooted in reality, or in the reality of the difficulty and the work ethic that is needed to be a champion in boxing. And I don't think that, despite everything that Tyson Fury says and does, that he sort of adheres to the ethos and the discipline that is required. And Deontay Wilder certainly doesn't. Because when you look at Floyd Mayweather would talk about hard work, dedication, all work is easy work, as a consequence of all that hard work and dedication, having a positive attitude going into the fight. And Deontay Wilder was talking about all this abstract metaphysical nonsense about his grandmother telling him that he was special, and he converts into the Bronze Bomber. The Bronze Bomber takes over. He physically leaves his body, and it's the Bronze Bomber talking, and it's the Bronze Bomber who wants to kill somebody in the ring. That he's really a nice. It was just stupid, childish nonsense. It was just stupid, childish nonsense. And you know, I just feel that I think he did black people a great disservice being a champion. Honest to God, he was just one of the worst. He was one of the worst. I think a lot of white people loved him because of how fucking stupid he sounded, how fucking stupid niggerish he sounded. Everything about him was wrong. Everything about him was wrong. He was a hypocrite, a liar. You get beaten up to the extent that you did, and you still want to act as if like it's somebody else's fault. You can't even. And you know, here's the thing. Let's go to what Floyd actually said, and I'm going to pass something out that's really important, in as much as that is concerned too. Like here, this is Michael Benson putting it up, and Michael Benson states the following: Floyd Mayweather on AJ versus Fury. Very interesting fight. I think Anthony Joshua losing helped him become stronger. I look forward to working with Joshua real soon. We talk all the time. I met Tyson Fury on a few occasions. Great guy. Very intriguing matchup. He's got respect for Tyson Fury. Great guy. He doesn't mention Deontay Wilder here, but they'll need to. I suppose this absence, I think the absence of Deontay Wilder only matters in the sense that Floyd Mayweather is an American, and he seems to be, leaning more towards the UK fighters in the heavyweight division, when the one sole big representative of the United States in the heavyweight division is Deontay Wilder, and for some that is an unforgivable act of perfidy. But that's by the by. What I want to pass out here is not so much the fact that we talk all the time. That doesn't really matter to me. He might be exaggerating there. What I want to pass out is what the point he makes here. I think Anthony Joshua losing helped him become stronger. You cannot say the same for Deontay Wilder. Losing, in as much as Deontay Wilder is concerned, even though he will not admit it, destroyed him. I think that he actually had some hope when he was keeping up the illusion. But once it got exposed, and I feel that I can accurately use that term, when he fought Tyson Fury, he got exposed badly. He didn't lose the fight. People keep on saying, oh, he just lost the fight. He didn't just lose the fight. He got beaten up. That's why he has to find a rationale, some sort of rationale, to try and justify how that could have happened. And you know, the ramifications of that, unintended consequences of that, is what we're going to have to deal with going into this next fight. In the age of Black Lives Matter, in the age of Tyson Fury beating up a guy who said he was fighting for black history and black people in America during Black History Month, the debris from that exploding that myth is going to splatter all over this particular fight because of the speech that Anthony Joshua made in Black Lives Matter and what Tyson Fury has come to represent to a very right-wing, very white aspect of boxing. Even if they don't voice it, you see it when they write it on social media. You don't even need to say you're an Anthony Joshua fan, which I am not, and I cannot be. Okay? But if I criticize Tyson Fury, that's where they're gonna go. I'm gonna commit suicide when Tyson beats Anthony Joshua. Why the fuck would I do such a thing? Why the fuck would I even contemplate such a thing? Okay? But I would be surprised if Tyson Fury beats up Anthony Joshua the way he beat up that fucking retarded, ridiculous individual called Deontay Wilder, who refused to train properly, specifically for this type of fighter. But I don't blame him to a certain degree because his arrogance of the punch, okay, also was compounded by the fact that a lot of us did not believe that Tyson Fury was going to dare take the fight to him like that. But I'm not the one in the ring. And even if you do not believe that Tyson Fury is going to do that, it is your job as a fit athlete to be prepared for that. And he wasn't prepared for it, and that's what happened. No drug in water, no hit with a metal object, no padding taken out of a glove. You were just not prepared for that type of fight. You got exposed badly. Your punch didn't work, and you looked beyond ridiculous. Let's move on to the last part of this video. So last part of this video, we're going to look at what the GWOAT Shields posted. She reposted what was being put out by ESPN.com's Women's Pound for Pound rankings. And she says, hashtag being that though, number one. You know what I'm saying? I mean, hey, she got right. Listen, I tell you what, something happened recently that's made me appreciate Claressa Shields. And I'll tell you what it is. Because it also applies to this list here. So let's count down the list. Number one, Claressa Shields. Let me pronounce her name properly. I always say Claressa, but it's Claressa. Number one, Claressa Shields. Number two, Katie Taylor. Some people might argue that Katie Taylor deserves to be number one, but I think based upon the fact that Claressa Shields has been undisputed in two weight classes, regardless of the opposition, it is what it is. You know, you cannot say that Katie Taylor, nah, she's number one, period. Claressa Shields is number one, Katie Taylor number two, Jessica McCaskill number three, Amanda Serrano number four, Delphine Possoon number five. I want you to keep in mind Delphine Possoon because I'm going to go back there in a minute. Christina Hammer is number six. That's my baby mama. Let me have a quick look at her for a minute. What I mean is fantasy baby mama. You know, she's a, what you call it, a PAWG. She loves sticking her boot in the camera. Gorgeous thing though. Well, I suppose if you got that thing for German girls. All right, moving on. Michaela Mayer, number 7. Now, I don't understand this because this is ridiculous. What they can't make a decision between number 8 and 9? Does it really matter that much? Where they can't choose a number 9 between Cecilia Breakers and Daniela Bermudez? Were they trying to be fair there? So they say T8, Cecilia Breakers, T8 again, Daniela Bermudez, and then number 10, Terry Harper. And let's start with Terry Harper from the bottom. That is where you really find that there's a flaw with this list, because Terry Harper, number 10, is, if I'm not mistaken, a unified champion. Okay, I do know she holds the WBC, because she beat the girl from Finland, and she also holds, it's not the WBA, she definitely doesn't hold the WBO because that matters a lot. She doesn't hold the IBF because that's so the WBA, if I'm not mistaken, belongs to Choi, right? I think that belongs to Choi. But I think she's got two. Yes, she holds the IBO. Forgive me. She holds the IBO and WBC, if I'm not mistaken, right? She might hold something else. I don't know. But I know she holds those two belts. All right. So she's been a champion longer, much longer in any case, than Michaela Mayer, Michaela Mayer, who comes in at number 7. Based upon what? Based upon the win that she had against Eva Brodnicka, who nobody really watched, to get the WBO belt. All right. She's not unified. Okay, she hasn't been a champion as long as Terry Harper. Terry Harper's actually defended her belt. She's defended her belt since I get she fucked up. Anyway, she's defended her belt. She's been in difficult fights. She's a good boxer. And you know, when it really comes down to it, doing pound for pound, I suppose you can take into consideration the ability, your boxing ability. I don't think that Michaela Mayer has better boxing ability than Terry Harper. Terry Harper's been a champion longer, and she's got 2 belts. Michaela Mayer is rather new to the whole having a belt thing. She took on one of the weakest champions in there, in Eva Brodnicka, who fought recently. I'm just saying that's not right. Then Cecilia Breakers being above Terry Harper doesn't make sense to me, because Cecilia Breakers, and this is what I really want to get to, should not have lost the way that she lost against Jessica McCaskill. Jessica McCaskill is a god awful. We're talking about pound for pound. I suppose you got to give her some credit for being a pound for pound undisputed champion in the welterweight division, one of the keystone divisions in boxing. But my God, is she a god-awful boxer? And I'm not just saying that simply because I don't like her style, because I said we're going to talk about Delphine Possoon. If you want to see the true definition of a brawler who makes it almost an art, then watch Delphine Possoon. Jessica McCaskill is just a bad fucking version of what a brawler or a boxer or a part-time white-collar boxer is supposed to be. And I suppose for the simple fact that a person such as Cecilia Breakers would make such a harebrained, ridiculous choice of choosing Abel Sanchez at an advanced age, all right, to go into a fight against a ridiculously uncoordinated brawler like Jessica McCaskill and still come undone, where the scorecards reflect that she was outclassed. I mean, some people say the scorecards were a bit too wide, but it is what it is. The onus was on Cecilia Breakers to use her boxing to nullify the nonsense that Jessica McCaskill was bringing in there. But instead, due to the training she got from that fucking ridiculous guy, and I suppose she must have been seduced by the whole Big Bear atmosphere. That's why she decided to stick with this ridiculous guy who's absolutely destroyed her career. And it's terrible because Jessica McCaskill, I don't see her winning against anybody who can really. But I was watching Amanda Serrano, who's right underneath her there on the bags recently. I'm gonna post that on this. She looks beautiful the way she's maneuvering. You can see that she can box. Jessica McCaskill, she looks shit. That was just brawling nonsense. And then she's got these sideburns that make her, fuck it, man. I can't even fuck with that. So you know what though? But because she's beat Cecilia Breakers twice, she gets to be number 3 on pound for pound list, above Serrano, above Delphine Possoon, above Harper. It is what it is. And then carry on as if like, yeah, look at me. Anyway, should we end it here or there's something else? Let me just have a quick look whether there's something else I'd like to talk about. I suppose we can finish off with Danny Garcia, really. Actually, before we actually go to Danny Garcia, let's look at somebody who comes from his part of the world who's making some waves lately. I'm talking about Edgar Berlanga. He's got a fight April 24th against Nicholson, some guy called Nicholson, another guy who's most likely going to knock out in the first round and claim that, you got this whole Deontay Wilder thing going on with this guy, and he's going to knock out a whole bunch of bums in the first round, and they're going to say he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. You know what I'm saying? So for me, until I see him do it and actually go be in a real fight, I can't sign on to that shit. But let's go back to the man, Danny Garcia. All right, so Danny Garcia writes the following: my goal in boxing was to be a 3-division world champion, and I feel like my next chapter of my career is at 154. So the next chapter of my career is at 154. Okay, and now this thing, when I read this the first time, I thought, oh, well, that's okay. But then again, I read it properly, and I thought, huh? It said, I'm definitely going to be the biggest name in that division. Now, when I first read it, I think psychologically I felt that he would say something like, I just read it the way I thought it was going to read, which was like, I definitely feel I'm going to be one of the biggest names in that division. But instead he writes, I'm definitely going to be the biggest name in that division. Based upon what? Your great accomplishments at 147? The fact that they call you Danny Gift Garcia? But I think I know why he feels that he's going to be the biggest name, because, he has a record of taking the most people to Barclays Center in Brooklyn. So he's going to be the biggest name in the division, above Jamel Charlo at 154, above Hurd, above Erickson Lubin, all of whom, to be honest with you, most likely will fucking knock him out. I mean, seriously, I think that the guy who beat him recently after a car accident in Errol Spence, I think he's a bit afraid of going up and fighting those guys up there, because he might get exposed really badly by the level of competition up there. It's very, very deadly competition, because it's a competition where I feel a lot of those guys are comfortable at their weight, if they are, and they can still maintain a certain. I mean, that was what was surprising about what Jarrett Hurd was accomplishing at that time, because he looked too big for that weight class. Looked way too big for that weight class. Yet he was making weight and still walking people down. So when he lost to J-Rock, I suppose that was a long time coming, but it also throws some suspicions up. And then he lost, and then he didn't necessarily make his way back immediately, but he's still staying in that division. So that division is quite complicated. And for Danny Garcia to say he's just going to walk in there and be the biggest name, based upon what? I suppose if you can be like Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder, speak it, believe it, receive it, or some shit like that, you know, that's another thing, isn't it? But anyway, I'll finish this video here. Thank you very much for watching, and as always.